Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. Sorry if you're watching on Twitch chat because, well, you know what? If you're watching Twitch chat, fuck you. If you're listening to the MP3, thank you so much for sticking around with us. No, I'm kidding. It's I've been drinking. So mean. I've been drinking. I need to go get another beer. Look how much is left in that. No, but if you're listening to the MP3, Sean's audio crashed, so we had to restart this up again. And we actually had a really awesome intro.
I know.
After that,
so you want to try and do that again?
Yeah, sure. So if you're here to listen for the League of Legends Anonymous versus T-Force podcast breakdown, that's not happening tonight. And it's not because we don't want to talk about it. It's because we're going to give you guys an extra couple of days to watch the VODs, because most of you will catch this podcast on Wednesday or Thursday, and then catch the next podcast like on Monday or Tuesday. We want you to give you a couple of days to go to the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/T-Force podcast. Watch the VODs, watch us play, analyze it yourselves, and see how our analysis matches up with yours. And that's what we really like for you guys to do. So please go watch them if you haven't already. We are going to talk about that on Wednesday, which will probably be like Friday or Saturday for you downloading it.
And a thank you to the LOL podcast guys for coming out with a great showing.
Yes, thank you guys.
We appreciate it.
They did awesome.
Yes, they did.
Yes, we had a lot of fun. We learned quite a bit, and
it was great.
We're coming back nice and strong. So moving forward, Soap Foam on YouTube. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for putting together the timestamps every week for the YouTube videos, because as he puts it himself, he doesn't think that we would go back and listen to us talk. So he puts them together.
Coming from somebody who started as a listener and then came in as a co-host, it's really, really awkward listening to your own voice.
I love it.
No, of course you love it. Of course you love it. Why am I not surprised?
I listen to the podcast before I go to bed.
Oh my God, why?
Because it puts me to sleep.
Not surprised whatsoever.
he puts
doesn't.
the.
Wait a second. He doesn't listen to the whole podcast. He just has his version of the audio running over and over. We're not even included on it. It's just a loop of him.
Well, I stopped talking. I better fast forward when I start talking again.
I can't fast forward.
Make an entirely separate audio with just pieces of his voice together.
He does it while brushing his teeth and looking in the mirror, hyping himself up every morning. Yeah.
I really wouldn't be surprised if he just
don't gift that, please. Make it look I'm sucking a dick right there.
I have this feeling that you're probably just recording your voice, like saying kind of inspirational things to yourself, like, yeah, God, I look so great this morning. Jesus, just gonna brush the shit out of my teeth.
No, you already told me I'm not allowed to do that anymore.
Wow.
You told me I'm not allowed to hype myself up. I'm not allowed to.
No, you're not. You're not allowed to hype yourself up. You can't psych yourself out.
You know what? We're not going to get there. That's a conversation for Wednesday. Moving on, I think what was I going to talk about here? There was actually a point that I had to make. You know what? It'll probably come back to me. We'll give a shout out to the
You were thinking somebody.
Shout out to Cargan. Shout out to Haberdashing. And shout out to Badger for casting that on Saturday night. By the way, we're going to give you guys a shout out again. Fucking awesome job.
Yeah, that was fantastic. The 3-man booth is it's just great. You guys did very well, and I mean Cargan did the play-by-play, and that was great. And then the color analysis was fantastic. And I loved the OGN style casting during one of those team fights where you just started shouting out ability names. That was great.
I really liked it when it was like game 2, and it was the very last pick. This is no spoilers, but Badger goes, I know who DeClawd's going to pick right now. He's going to pick Syndra. I know he's going to. It only makes sense with their team comp and everything. And he was right. We were like, yep, pick Syndra. Let's go.
The other funny thing is, as soon as we picked Syndra and the enemy team picked Orianna, there was. I had people messaging me that there were a ridiculous amount of ball jokes going on.
Yep.
Yes.
But yeah.
Quantity over quality.
That was a joke that was made. So speaking of mid laners, this is a great segue to get into a topic discussion that I'd like to talk about tonight. We know that in 5.2 that DFG is being removed. What we don't know is the buffs that champions are going to receive. We kind of understand that Fizz, he's getting some changes. Yeah. I don't have him in front of me, but I do know that his ultimate, when it hits somebody, it increases damage that Fizz does to that champion by 20%.
6 seconds.
20% for 6 seconds. Plus, he's getting some tweaks in AP and stuff to make up for that. However, we don't know other champions that are going to get tweaked because of the DFG removal. And I would like to start with our theory crafting here with everybody on the panel of what we might see rise to prominence in the mid lane as soon as we see DFG removed. We're assuming that the tweaks to champions are not going to be 20% damage increase across the board like Fizz and Ahri or something. You know what I mean?
Well, they have mentioned that they're going to touch Ahri and Veigar. I think those are the two that I mentioned specifically. Yep. I think there were some changes to Ahri, but I don't actually remember what those were right now. I think they took off the percentage damage increase on her charm for some reason.
I think
and they added damage
well.
back to her W, and
they said they wanted to hit her passive in a way as well to potentially give her more lifesteal or something such as that, so she could, instead of being like a burst assassin like she currently is, they'd make her into more of a sustained poker.
Sure. So I don't, in my opinion, the removal of DFG is not a bad thing. I like having less random elements or less. It lessens the chance of a champion becoming something they're not supposed to be. It turns, for example, like you've got champions that suddenly are assassins because they pick up this one item. They're able to 0 to 100 to somebody with an item that's like their power spike. That item allows them to wipe somebody off the map. All you have to do is spend
Lissandra's a good example of that.
Right.
You can play Lissandra 2 different ways, and one of those ways is Deathfire Grasp. You grab Deathfire Grasp on Lissandra, instead of becoming a control initiator, she becomes an assassin.
The best way I'd ever heard it phrased for Lissandra, it's the sit in a bush and wait to make somebody disappear build. Because as soon as they show up, ba-boom, they're dead. Like that, it's a wrap. I love it. That's my favorite Lissandra build.
I do that with Vel'koz sometimes.
Is go DFG?
No, sit in a bush and make someone disappear.
Wait for somebody to expand.
Sure
you can do that with Ari
wards.
right now. Just taunt WQ or taunt WQ or QW, whatever rotation you want to roll in with that.
Right.
The thing that strikes me as a little odd about them trying to fit a champion into a certain role is that when we had Ghostcrawler on like a few months ago, he specifically said that they weren't going to try to pigeonhole champions anymore, and they weren't going to try to take away those different builds and different paths that you could take them. So I'm a little bit surprised that they're trying to take that away, but at the same time, I think it will give a little bit more different play styles a chance to be seen and things like that. But I'm just a little bit surprised because he did mention that before.
Well, it's one of the. I think it may come down to the fact that the champion gets pigeonholed because of that one item. It's very hard. It's very hard to play some champions without that extra increased damage because that's the difference between wiping somebody off the board and not wiping them off. Now, when you remove an item that can wipe somebody off the board, they are allowed to have different build paths. Now we can see mid lane going for Morellonomicon or Athene's Unholy Grail rather than rushing straight to a DFG, which within this entire conversation, in the back of my mind, which is funny, is that I think about this and I'm like, yeah, DFG is a great item, but there's hardly any champions that rush it on, and like LeBlanc doesn't even rush DFG anymore because she becomes a control mage rather than there. So I'm not mad that DFG is being removed because it's not a rush. Yes, it's a heavy part of a kit. Yes, it's a 100 AP item, but you don't need it to be successful.
I think there were a few mid-lane champions that were balanced around it, though, and that's why they wanted to get rid of it. Because if they made those champions too strong, like Ari, while DFG still exists, then that champion becomes just off the charts.
Well, and if they're also if they're planning on changing up certain champion kits in certain ways, it's, I guess, a little bit easier for them if they just remove a major damage variable just instantly. It gives them a little bit more of a level playing field for for their balance team to deal with the changes, rather than being like, oh, we're gonna change all this stuff, but we also have to keep in mind 20% extra damage.
Well, I do like DFG. Like when I've been starting to learn mid, and I like playing Ari, and of course you generally build DFG on her. So I am going to be really sad to see it go because I do like her assassin burst potential. But the nice thing about it is anyone who's gone and gotten really behind in mid lane will know when you're building to assassinate someone and you get behind, it's really, really hard. Like especially if you have to build that DFG because it's such a core part of your build, and you get behind and it costs so much to build it. It's really hard because you get behind and you can't 100 to 0 somebody, and then you feel like you're not really fulfilling a role on your team, and you're not being as successful as you want to be. So while I am going to be really sad to see it go, I do think that it will help you a little bit when you get behind in terms of having alternate build paths and things like that.
And how they adjust the champions to make up for getting rid of it.
Right.
That's what I'm excited for.
to touch on that as well, there are a few things more depressing than knowing you're playing somebody who should be assassinating somebody, knowing that you're behind, and then finally finishing that DFG and still not being able to 100 to 0.
Right, because you just get it so late and you don't have anything else. And by then they have MR and things.
Sorry, I wanted to bring up the opposite case, though, which is when you do get ahead or when your enemy gets ahead and they get a Deathfire Grasp. I think Veigar is a good example of this. He's not a huge pick in competitive play. Actually, he's not a pick at all. Nobody plays him. But in the pub games, at the mortal level, if Veigar gets ahead and he gets a Deathfire Grasp, then you can't even survive in lane.
Right.
As soon as you get hit by an Event Horizon, you are dead. Yeah. There's nothing you can do to counter that.
Well, he gets ahead. All he has to do is R, whatever mid mage he's against. If he does get fed like that, but the DFG might be the stepping stone to get him there.
Exactly, it's the stepping stone. I mean, with one kill, his R is not going to one shot you. But if he's got a Deathfire Grasp to back it up, then that's just going to propel him into a state where you can't go mid lane anymore because he's going to kill you.
I like Veigar, I really do, but you just feel so useless when you're waiting for cooldowns. So you can get that Q on a pretty quick cooldown as long as you play properly.
I think a lot of but that's
very carefully.
That's the thing with mid mages is once you've blown your load, you are gated by cooldowns, and so you have to learn to play around that. Ahri is very much the same
gated
way.
by cooldowns or even gated by mana, especially in lane. If you don't have blue buff and it's before, you can buy something like Morellonomicon can band-aid a lot of mana issues, but once you're out of mana, you're still going to be out of mana for a while.
Right. Which I think it's funny that DeClawd brings that up, because DeClawd, you play champions that aren't gated so much by cooldowns as they are gated by mana. Ziggs, Malzahar, and Malzahar not really being a great example there. Ziggs and Syndra being ones that are gated more by mana than they are cooldown, because you can spam Q on Syndra and you can spam Q on Ziggs, and the only gate that you have is your E and W on both those champions.
Yeah, same with Karthus.
Right. And yeah, see, and I think it's funny that you bring that up, because just the way, by the virtue of the way you play and the virtue of champions that you may play, you're used to being able to spam abilities. So
thing is, Syndra I am not very good at, because I just started picking her up because I named my daughter Syndra, so I really figured I was obligated to learn how to play her. And she's fun, she's neat, but just she doesn't really fit my disability because of how quick you have to throw out her abilities to get it. She's a little more difficult to play for me than someone like Malzahar, for example, or even Vel'koz. Even though Vel'koz is all skill shots, he can stay back a little bit further. When Syndra is the QE, everything is kind of close range, unless she can, and it's situational. You got to grab a minion or a ball to use her W, which has pretty decent range as well. So all those little things play into it, but I see what you're saying about that, where it's more gated by the mana that you have. But when I do play champions like Veigar, where it's 100% reliant on your cooldowns, you need to make sure that you make the most of that. And like Punch was saying before, if you don't get the kill, you blow your load, and boom, 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 everything drops down. There's no DFG to help secure that kill. You got to kind of dance around and hope you don't get killed before your Q cooldown comes back and you can do something again. So I just want to, real quick, since we're talking about Veigar, Sir Tesla says in chat here, since we're doing a little bit of Twitch chat questions, he asks, will Veigar still be viable in the mid lane? Which is a very general question. And since, didn't you say they were looking at adjusting him to make up for the DFG?
Yeah, but they haven't said what they were going to do. They haven't said
what that I'm excited to see. I want to see what Riot figures out for modern Veigar, because he hasn't been touched pretty much since, and he's one of the original champions. So I want to see what they do to bring him into this meta, if they do anything, or if they do a rework, if there's just a slight tweak as a hold us over until they do something with him. But I'm curious to see. But I think he's still viable, because like I said, if you're doing well, you're farming your Q, you can just blow up the enemy AP with 1 R and then save the rest. That gate, the event horizon, as long as you place it properly, everything still works in team fights.
A long time ago, I said if your name isn't Curse Nijackie, you shouldn't be playing.
I remember that vine, and I disagree with it.
It was a joke.
He's actually
I know it was.
He's actually a pretty good troll support. Like if you take him bot lane, his zoning potential when he has cage up is just ridiculous.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, you can pretty much zone anything you want when it's up, because if they get too close, they're done. Ganks, if you have a strong ganking jungler, really easy. You can do an entire dragon in the time that you drop that cage and they can't get near it. And the same thing with towers. Like, they can't come and contest the tower if you're sieging it, because if you throw that cage down, they're pretty much dead. So
I was about to say
it's not a normal conventional support, but it is a pretty good cheese pick.
Because you're not farming the Q, but you're getting it on assists, kind of.
Okay, bringing
And
this up.
it's more of a...
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay,
Finish
sorry,
your
go
sentence. All right.
I don't remember.
Speaking of cheese picks, I've seen a lot of support Bran lately, and I really want to bring this to Daze because she's played, and Punch because you both play bottom lane.
Do you want to finish this whole mid lane thing first, and then
let's fucking move into it. We don't care.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
We'll wait to see what Riot does to adjust.
Yeah, we just kind of talk about, like, we can talk about what champion is going to rise to prominence. I think most of us will say the champions that rise to prominence, assuming that the other champions are not being compensated for the DFG, which we know is a lie, is going to be mobile champions. But at the same time,
I think Kha'Zix is going to make a comeback mid.
I could see Kha'Zix coming back. I think a lot of champions that won't get 100 to 0 now from like the assassins being nerfed a bit. Any assassins that are left that still do this same comparable damage without DFG are just going to be rotated too.
Which is still Fizz, oddly enough, because
he doesn't
Fizz usually
DFG.
rushes Lichbane. He doesn't rush DFG, and yet they're changing him.
If you look at his changes on the PBE, you're right. Like, he's gaining more. Let's see here. His W is losing, or is gaining base damage, but losing AP per level, or AP per item damage. Scaling AP damage. Sorry for the lack of a terrible term. But his Q is being his Q is being buffed, significantly buffed for this change. Like, there's these crazy things going on that Riot's saying we're removing this because we don't want assassins to be prominent, but they're buffing the assassins to be more prominent. So we need to have a PBE episode.
The nice thing about the thing with having the assassins like Zed and whoever's left out of the assassin group is that before, if you were playing against Zed and you were like an Ahri or something, you had to choose whether to go your DFG or whether to get your Zhonya's early. And now you don't have to make that. That choice is a little bit easier to make because you can go the Zhonya's earlier.
Well, the DFG was the one choice to deal with high health champions in the later game. So what do you do now? Do you add something else that does something similar, or do you add a mechanic for assassins to do percent health?
You can say that the DFG could deal with high health champions, but you have Leandri still. If you're playing somebody who's going to be poking more, you can get that Leandri's, and you're still going to be like whittling down health over time. There are other options in the game, but for a burst mage, for the most part, you weren't going to be bursting the high health targets for the most part. Like,
yeah, I think the original intention for DFG, it might have been to use against high health targets,
right?
But the way it was ended up being used was for highly bursty champions, so that those bursty champions became even more powerful.
To the
point that it was just impossible to survive.
Right? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, okay, cool, I can potentially maybe kill a high health target, or I can guaranteed kill that 80 carry.
Right.
Who's going to be more impactful?
Generally, you're not going to jump on that Cho'Gath late game and try to, that's not who you're using your DFG on generally.
Right.
Or ever,
that'd be
really.
interesting to see if they actually create an item to replace DFG, and if their original intention was to make DFG an anti-high HP item, might they replace that with another item that fits that role better?
There has to be an item that comes in that replaces that in some form, because it's just a 100 AP item and it's in and of itself. Not counting the active. So there are definitely points in the game where even if you don't remember to use DFG, you're still gaining that extra passive damage on all your abilities by not having that item, or rather by having that item. So something has to come in to replace it, or there has to be an item rework at some point with the AP items to make up for the fact that you're losing 100 AP in a second or third item you could buy.
If they wanted to, what they could do is they could do something similar to how they have Leandri's working on when it... so Leandri's, if you slow somebody and they're taking damage from one of your abilities, every time the ability ticks, they take a small percentage of their health. So like say Singed has a Riley's and a Leandri's, he's taking away percentages of their health in small ticks. Instead of doing that, like let's say that there's a single target ability and you hit one person with it, instead of doing like a small tick of 2 or 4% health, it would be like, oh, if it's a single target, it takes away 8% health. Like say like additional 8% extra health from a single target ability. So that way, you know, if you really wanted to focus down a tank, you would just keep hitting him with single target abilities. Or if you wanted to, you know, do AoE damage, and continue to do its own little bit of damage, but you got a bigger like chunk of health taken out of it if you were only hitting one specific person with an ability.
And I do agree with you. If that's their goal, to have an item that's anti-high HP targets, I think Landry is the way to go.
Yeah.
Which is damage over time as opposed to burst damage. DFG, to me, just never seems to satisfy a role to take out a high HP target.
Right, because you
can't kill a high HP target with burst. Right. I mean, that's why they build so much HP.
That's the
generally
of the champion.
You use your sustained damage champions to kill the high health targets, not your burst
considering
mages.
a generally in high HP target has a ton of magic resist or has a ton of armor, has, you know, whatever it is that the enemy team is doing the most damage with, so you're not going to be able to kill it as easily because you're negating a giant portion of their damage already by having extra health and having the extra resistance stat of whatever it may be.
And I want to bring up this too, like, when did it become a problem for somebody who's supposed to be able to burst somebody down? Why is it not okay? Like, why is it not cool if they can't burst somebody down? Like, I'm okay with champions having weaknesses against other champions just because, like, if you pick LeBlanc and somebody else picks something that can go really tanky, they outpicked you. Like, there was a clear decision that they had because you decided to pick something early.
I think a lot
I'm
of that
okay
has
with
to
that.
go with cheer. I think a lot has to go with that in solo queue. This game is primarily balanced around solo queue while they're making a professional.
Which it should be.
As it should be, because the primary, you know, like that's where they're making their most money. They're not making it off the LCS. There's no way. That pick and ban phase is negated by the fact that you don't have a team and you don't have people that are actually picking and banning together and, you know, making proper.
Yeah, there's no plan going into it, no coach.
Right, so you can't balance around the pick and ban phase when 100% of the player base, not 100%, 98% of the player base is playing this game for fun.
No, I get that, but like, again, I'm going to bring up, why isn't it okay if, like, a character like LeBlanc, who can make somebody evaporate if they get their whole combo off on an enemy mid laner or an AD carry, why does she need to be able to do the same thing to somebody who's fed out of the top lane and is going to get really tanky?
Right, exactly.
Like,
you let them get fed in the first place. That's kind of scary.
There you go. Like,
she doesn't need to be able to do that. I think that's why they removed
She doesn't need to. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you should. I mean, if you want to go back to the strengths and weaknesses thing, there was a point where Zed could pretty much ult almost anybody and kill them if he got him into a 1v1 situation. That's fine, but like, I almost feel that the community in a way is so spoiled by that mentality of, I'm playing a fed assassin, I should be able to kill anybody I want whenever I want because I'm fed.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Riot has said several times that they do most of their balancing around competitive. That's why you see people like LeBlanc and Thresh. Like, LeBlanc at one point had like a 45% win rate and got nerfed, and everyone was frustrated over it. But it's because in competitive play, they could take advantage of everything with her. But the problem with having burst mages, like, take Ahri and you take an AD carry. Even though you have Banshees, you're still going to get one shot by an Ahri because she has her ult, so you have DFG. Like, that Banshees means nothing.
Multiple abilities,
so, yeah, I mean, it's a situation where, like Chira said, you kind of get spoiled. Like, oh, I like playing these assassins because I can one-shot and I can get out and I can do everything. You know, I have so much mobility. And it kind of levels the playing field for the other roles a little bit so that you actually have a fighting chance. Because I know playing a support, when you are against fed assassins, it's really frustrating to play against because you just, no matter how hard you try, you cannot keep your ADC alive. And they get frustrated because they've built defensive items and you've built items for them. And I've had people die, and when they've had a Banshees, I've had McHale's for them. We've had Locket, and they still just crumble. So, I mean, there is a whole leveling of the playing field type situation also. Assassins should have to play really smart to take advantage of their strengths while avoiding their weaknesses. And right now they kind of pop in, kill, pop out, and there's very little recourse.
Except for Veigar. Veigar is one of those who exists in that realm of, he's a risky pick because when he doesn't blow you up, he's he's very.
But he's won 124.
So he has utility, which
he
is
has
not a part of any other assassin's kit.
Right. He does have that, which he needs because he has 0 mobility.
And an AoE stun also. Like it's
hinky, but it is nice. And I played just on Saturday. I played a Veigar game in Team Builder, and the only other player on the enemy team who was doing really well was their Nasus, and I could kill him with a rotation without DFG in his ult form.
But we need to look. But we also need to go back and look at that Nasus. What did that Nasus build? Did he itemize so that he did not get blown up by you? Did he build a QSS so he can make it out? Obviously not, because you blew him up in rotation. Like there are strategies.
There are ways to do that. Yeah.
There are ways, like you're saying.
To worry about my ADC and the jungler.
With every character in this at this point in this game, I really like where this game is at now. Like they brought in those bases up. I think like 3 or 4 episodes ago, I said I don't really like where this game's headed, but I really like the game's at because there's a lot of counters to everything. I think assassins are can be a problem. There's a handful, like 3 or 4 assassins that can be a problem. Other than that, I really like where the game is headed at this point. And we had just days. You had actually kind of this is going to segue me into another point because we had an email come in about the episode 228 that we did. We were going to talk about support brand. I swear to God, we'll get there. We have plenty of time left to talk. So in episode 228, a lot of you, it was a very heated, very contested episode. A lot of players liked it, and a lot of players disliked what we had to talk about. And I think Chira had brought it up here where what we were saying is correct. It may have been the way that we said it was incorrect, where we said that you're bad. All right, I'm just gonna put that out there. But when we say you're bad, we're not actually saying that you're terrible. We're just saying that you have a lot to learn, and it's just the phrasing was incorrect. So I'm gonna read this email that came in from Nick. Nick writes, "I'm a big fan of the podcast. I've been listening for the past year. I love how you guys keep such a consistently good content. I feel that the show and network has grown immensely to the past year." Thank you, Nick. "I wanted to write to you about episode 228 as it has really hit home for me. I'm glad everyone can give tough love because sometimes you just need it. I was gold 2 last season and felt like I'd hit a wall and didn't understand what was wrong. The problem was I was a horrible mechanics. I seriously lacked the skill to outplay my opponents, and now I had something to work on and improve myself. Sometimes you just need someone to wake you up, and now I have the drive and focus to practice where I have weakness. So thank you. Keep up the great work, and I'm looking forward to another year of shows."
Well worded. Thank you.
Yeah, so I appreciate it.
I bring that up just for a quick touch on where I could go. I don't have it for me. I should have brought up the negative review and read that side by side. But it was that people felt like we were putting the hosts, all of us, on a pedestal, as if we were saying we were better than everybody we were listening to. And Punch is shaking his head right now for the MP3 guys.
Watch the VODs and you'll
understand. We're not.
Yeah.
We're not better.
We're not putting ourselves above anybody else. We fully admit that we're bad. And
yeah.
And once you watched the VODs for this last Saturday, we can confirm
us are more bad than others.
We're terrible.
And anyone who's ever watched us play 5s, like sometimes we play 5s after the cast, it's about 50 minutes of us going, "Oh my God, I'm so bad. Oh no, God. Oh, why did you do that? You're so bad." Like that's all we do for like 50 minutes. So
and look,
I'm beat. GG first blood.
I'm beat. I'm dead. See you guys. I'll see you in 20 minutes. Forfeit. Let's go. But no, like how did I phrase this? I got into a pretty lengthy Twitter discussion. What was that? Friday about the episode, and God, I don't even know where I'm going with this anymore.
We were both arguing this. We were both arguing the same argument where it was that we both had that we want to make people better at the game. It's just that some people cannot respond to tough love, and we understand that there's some listeners out there that. Hopefully you're still listening. Like if you're not hearing. Obviously you're not hearing this, but if you are, you've gone to this far. I apologize if we hurt your feelings last week. I will say I'm sorry if you felt like that tough love wasn't what you needed. You're not, if you're listening to this, you're not bad at the game. There's things you need to work on. There's still things I need to work on, but mine might be more of a macro level than a micro level than yours.
Right.
And that's where it comes down to is each player has something different to work on. And if you think we're putting us on a pedestal, it's because Chira, you put this the best way possible, is that we have played 2,000 normal games.
That's exactly the point I wanted to bring up.
It took us 2 years to get to the point where we're at to be able to talk to you guys like this. And if somebody would have told me that 2 years ago, I wouldn't be here. Yet I would be a challenger.
No, that's the thing I want to say. Like for people that have like 1,100, 1,200, 2,000, whatever plus games, I'm just relaying what I wish somebody had told me when I had 100 games played. Because when I had like 100 games played, I felt like I knew everything, and that's a joke. Like, you don't. Hell, I'm still learning new shit every day.
I have over 6,000 games played, so, and I still got a lot to learn.
And it's really, like, everyone learns a little bit differently. And I've been a manager for a long, long time and managed like 300 people. And some of them you just have to be like, what are you doing? Get off your ass. And some of them you have to be like, you know, you have to coach them through and, you know, give them self-esteem and that sort of thing. And everyone's just a little bit different. But unfortunately, we're talking to, I don't even know how many people. We're talking to a lot of people all at one time. And it's impossible for us to kind of cater to each individual and give you guys each a different individual podcast every week. And so, like, 95% of our podcasts are just like nice, fluffy, like, here, this is what we want you to do, this is what you can work on. And then every once in a while, for those of you that are really stubborn out there and like, I've listened to all your episodes, but my team suck, okay, well, here's an episode for you. Now you need to figure out that you're doing something wrong so you can fix it, because if you don't think you're doing anything wrong, then there's nothing that you can do to fix it. So
yeah, you basically hit the nail on the head. I actually responded to this email, and the crux of what I was saying, or what I wanted to express about why we talk about you being bad, is a lot of people hit a wall in solo queue where they don't understand what they need to work on. They blame outside circumstances, and that's mostly teammates, for why they can't progress any further. And the key to getting beyond that wall is to focus on what you can control, your own play and strategy. And the tough love that we're giving is meant to get people to focus on themselves, so that they can focus on themselves to play better, to improve themselves, to improve their strategy, to improve their play style, instead of focusing on their teammates, because you can't control your teammates. You can't do it.
Sure, I have to cut you off here because Punch brings up a great point, is that 3 episodes ago, counting this episode, someone emailed us and said, I am getting fed as a jungler. I am doing everything right. What is wrong? And how did we answer that question? We said, you are not using what you are given correctly. And that's just something that people need to learn. And we're a fucking broken record at this point, bringing this point back up. But it's that you need to have the introspective, you need to look at yourself. Yes, you need to look at yourself and go, okay, I'm 5-0, but if I'm 5-0, are the enemy laners also 5-0 because they got a kill on the enemy, on your laner at the same time? Like, are you actually doing what you say you're doing to us, or are you trying to prop yourself up on a pedestal and make yourself sound better to us than you are? So, thank you so much for email. Thank you for Chira. I'll let you talk in a second. But thank you for writing us. Thank you for telling us that the tough love worked. For anybody out there who's butthurt by the tough love, sorry about your luck.
Well, and here's the other thing too. If what we said made you uncomfortable, then there's probably something that you need to look into, because a piece of you is like, okay, this affects me whether I want to admit it or not. And it's completely fine to feel uncomfortable in a situation like that. You're not going to learn if you sit in your comfort zone all the time. Like, it isn't until you face adversity that you really learn the most. And also, like, going back to that jungling thing, you also keep in mind that when you're in a game, if your team's up, if you're like 35 kills to 18, and you're going in because you're 5-1 or whatever, you're going in 1v2, 1v3, and you die. I love when people forget that, yeah, you're up on kills, 35 to 18, but those are kills that are across the team. Just because your team's up, 12, 14, 15, 30 kills doesn't mean anything when you're trying to lone soldier it and take on a bunch of people. It's a team game.
Yo, we're doing Twitch chat stuff tonight, and I've been reading this all night. Twitch chat is popping off. I love it. You know what, Mod Brat? You are fucking terrible. You play Zyra. You're awful. I love you.
Hey, I want to bring up
Zyra. Can we jump into like the brand now? Because that's actually, Zyra is a pretty good like segue into that.
I'm gonna go. Here's what we're gonna do.
An analogy, but
okay, go.
Make your analogy. Here's how this is gonna work.
I'm getting off of this call right now.
Not fun. It's actually life experience. I'm relating here to this. The United States Army, which I was a part of, they have to create someone who can follow orders and survive in adverse situations in a really quick amount of time from civilians, and they don't have no idea where they came from, just no idea. Just have a bunch of privates here, and they have to convert them into soldiers. Well, they don't do it by wearing kid gloves and being all nice and happy and fuzzy and sugarcoating everything they say. So they'll call you a steer or a queer. They'll call you a piece of shit. They'll do whatever it takes to break you down and then build you back up.
The beautiful indoctrination. Let's go.
It is, and you just have to open yourself up to it. That method is kind of a way to make people who are resistant to opening themselves up to the idea open themselves up to the idea. Same thing with League of Legends. We may be a little bit abrasive here on the podcast, and I say we, but I kind of sugarcoat things. I'll say Adam mainly and Sean. You guys are dicks. But
I know.
Make sure you wear your thick skins and it's not personal at you, and use it as a forum to say, hey, look, let me look inward real quick and see, look, I really do want to improve. And I've been bitching for years about my team blaming. Let me look at myself for a second.
Yeah, it's that whole breaking you down and building you back up type thing, because I know we've said it a million times, the most common denominator in your games is you. And if you're consistently losing games, then it's a you issue. It's not an anybody else issue. So, and we're just trying to help everyone to kind of notice that so that you can start working on what you need to fix. Because usually if you tweak little things here and there, you'll see incredible improvements and huge gains in your play just by noticing and fixing little things at a time.
And this benefits us too, because if everybody listens and improves, solo queue improves. Then we can get our ranks that we all want.
That's a really good point. That's me opening a beer point. That's what this. I'll drink to that.
Let's go on.
Let's move on to
brand. Let's move on to brand support, because I'm curious to hear the nuances of it.
I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. Somebody tell me.
Okay, so here's the thing, and I was actually just talking to my duo about it earlier, because I've, for anyone who follows me on Twitter, I just announced today that I decided to shelve Zyra for a while, and it's not, before everyone freaks out, it's mainly because in Zyra, Bran, Vel'koz, Annie, all of those types, and kind of excluding Annie because she has the most CC in the game. She has incredible utility. But as far as the Zyra, the Vel'koz, and all those, you really have to snowball in lane to be incredibly effective late game and to really fulfill your role, because a good part of what you're doing and a good part of your peel for your team and your AD carry is your damage. So if you get behind in lane and you can't build your damage items, then you become less effective as the game goes on. So for Zyra, you want to build your Leandres and things like that. And the problem is that the higher you get, the more accustomed people are to playing against those lanes, and the less they're going to feed you. So by the time you've hit Plat and Diamond, everyone's played against Zyra lanes, everyone's played against Brand lanes, everyone's played against Vel'koz. Like, we've played against pretty much everything, and they know not to stand in your ult and your plants and not to die, or not to stand next to each other in Brand ults so that you just wipe out everyone off the board. And you just get less fed. And I still stand by the fact that if you're low levels, if you're bronze, if you're silver, the absolute best way to carry as a support is to play Zyra, Annie, Brand, Vel'koz, like anyone with really high damage, anyone that has
we're talking
the potential
like
to 1v2 and things
silver,
like that.
Right?
Yeah, and it gives you the ability to carry and to 1v2 and to either zone for your AD carry or to pick up the kills so that later on you can carry the game yourself. That's how I carried out. Adam got gold, right? Playing Annie.
You got
Platinum. You can ride Annie probably to Diamond.
And Annie's great right now because she has a ton
it got really hard last season by the time I got to Plat 5, and even I got to Plat 3 on Annie, but by the time I got to Plat 3, it got really hard to cheese like I was, because I was cheesing at level 2.
Well, that was the other thing too. Adam, you hit that Annie like playing phase for you right like at the beginning of people starting to use Annie, and then within like a month, 2 months later, everybody was used to running in that Annie lane. They just knew, stay the hell away from her when she hits level 3 and you're fine. Like,
here's the thing though, in solo queue she's good because, like we said before, someone with good initiate creates communication for a team that doesn't have communication. There's Tibbers, everyone dive in.
Yeah, that's what sets Annie apart from like the other damage supports that you can play, is that as you get up higher, she's still really, really good because she has a ton of CC. So you play her a little differently. Now you don't necessarily play her to blow up the AD carry like you can in Bronze and just wipe the AD carry mid off the face of the earth. Now you play it as more of the CC
engage
type
or
thing.
engage.
Yeah, exactly. So you use her for more of that sort of role, which are areas that Brand and Zyra do not fulfill very well. They just are not very, very good at that engage and that counter. Well, they're decent at counter engage, but so that's my thought on Brand. Like he can be used. He's a kind of a cheese pick, and you have to get fed on him early. Like if you want to make him successful, you got to get those kills, whether you get him in lane or whether you roam and get him somewhere else. You have to get them, and you can still make it work. I still know people in Challenger who play Zyra and who play Brand, and you can make anything you want work. But it's just going to be one of those things that's a lot easier in lower elos than it's going to be in higher elos. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
I was telling Chira that I hope I got placed in Bronze in my placement so I could just wreck some kids all the way up to plat again. I was drunk the other night and messaging him in game.
Adam was so mad. He's like, I hope I get placed in Bronze so bad. And I'm like, you don't wish that.
No, I don't.
We should talk about placements real quick for everyone going through them because everyone's freaking out about them.
Did Punch have something to say?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to just reiterate. Thank you, Chira.
We're all
what Daze was saying. She pretty much hit the nail on the head with Brand bottom. He's definitely a cheese pick. The reason Annie and even Zyra can get farther in the solo queue ladder than Brand can is because of their CC. Brand you would pick him because you have a huge skill differential between yourself and the enemy bottom lane. You can destroy people that are not used to playing against Brand. You can destroy people that just aren't very experienced with the game, right? Because he does so much damage. But that's all he does is damage. He doesn't bring any CC, whereas Zyra and Annie do. Zyra,
but very unreliable.
Annie is an initiator. Zyra is a counter initiator, and they're both very good at both of those things. And that's pretty much why you would pick them. You would pick Annie because you want to initiate for your team, or you want to get a bunch of kills in the bot lane. You would pick Zyra because you want to counter initiate their dive, and they're both very good at that.
Zyra's still really good if they have a dive team.
And she brings a lot of damage too.
Right. Yeah. But again, as Zyra, you're much less effective if you don't snowball in lane. Like a good portion of her lane control and her game control later on. Usually when you see Zyra's win, they have, if you look at those graphs, they have the most damage on the team, even as a support. Like they do crazy damage. But if you get behind, and trust me, been there many times, if you get behind, you just feel ineffective. It's really difficult to control until you get that damage. So I still think that they're great. They're absolutely great lower levels, especially when you can't depend on your team and you want to just carry everything yourself. But as you move up, you can kind of branch out into some other supports as well.
And you know what? You can use these supports also if you have an AD top, an AD mid, an AD jungle, maybe a tank top and a tank jungle, and an AD mid. So you're kind of lacking damage and you want to round out your magic damage. Throw some magic damage in there. Sure, play one of those supports. It'll help round out your team.
But on the topic of Brand support, the exact same thing applies to what Dace was saying to Brand. You need to get ahead. Whereas Annie and Zyra still have a role when they fall behind, even though they're not great when they fall behind, as you said. They need to be ahead. But they still have a role. Brand doesn't. Brand needs to get ahead because all he supplies is damage.
He brings one CC. It's not great.
One
he brings one CC.
Single target fireball. That's it.
I'm just saying. He brings CC, okay?
Well, it's like, okay, so I've seen Zyra support several times in Plat, and he's annoying as hell to play against. You can't get anywhere near him, but if you don't feed him early, then he's useless late game, because all he has is that one stun. It's a skill shot, and if he doesn't have damage, he doesn't do anything. Like, it's the same type of situation. So, yeah,
well, we were talking,
it has its place, but...
Speaking of places, let's talk about placement matches and what you should expect out of placement matches if you haven't already done them.
This will help me.
Fuck you guys, and you're shaking your head at my segue.
I'm curious
best
about
at
it.
Segues.
You had an excellent segue. I just shake my head on the topic of placement matches alone. But continue.
Adam, I think you would be surprised at how bad that segue is.
That was the point, Chira.
I think you'd be surprised.
Listen, I'm not Joe Rogan. Okay, I can't segue as if it's my job, literally.
Well, it is what it is.
Wait, okay. Before we get into this, Chira, to your left, is that a cat laying?
Yeah, she's in the bathroom. I don't know what she's doing. Look at that. Look, she's like staring at the. Look at
She's
it.
like
Just,
licking the
everybody,
wall.
everybody, for 2 seconds, just look at what the fuck that cat's doing. Now she's paying attention to me. Look at her. She's like, Dad's talking about me. Yeah.
Okay, so placement matches. What you need to know about those is it's based on the rank you had last season, and you are, I would say, like almost always going to get placed lower than what you started.
It's usually about 3 divisions lower than where you started.
And unless you get really lucky in that your hidden MMR was way higher than your actual MMR, because, for example, Wrecker, I think he said 4 and 6, and he got placed in a gold 1. So that his hidden MMR was so high that he got lucky that he got he got placed there with that. Right. That's all. That's what.
Or he did a good job in the preseason.
That's pretty easy to tell, also, because if at the end of last season you were gaining like 28 points and you're losing like 13 wins per loss, then your MMR was really high.
Right.
If you were losing 28 and only gaining 13, then your MMR was really low. So that's a good way to gauge that. And I think what they do is is it still the 1200 plus whatever your MMR is divided by 12?
There's a basic levels. We should probably explain that.
It's the same as last season?
Right. So everyone has an MMR. I'm not sure. I thought someone said that it was a softer reset than last season, but I don't recall.
It's supposed to be, but apparently it's not.
It's supposed to be, but people are getting slapped down with the wrath of the emo god.
So either way,
is it?
Either way, it doesn't. Whether it's a softer reset or not, what it is they take your hidden MMR that nobody knows technically but Riot, and then they add a number to everybody. They add the same number to everybody, which is going to be around the normal mark for everyone, and then they're going to divide that in half. They're going to divide that by 2. So last year it was your MMR plus 1200, which was the entry level MMR. Like if you just started ranked, everyone was at 1200, and then they divided that by 2. But I don't know if they did it exactly the same this season. So I don't know. Punch, do you know what they were doing?
I'm too distracted by Twitch chat right now because they really want me to hit the gong.
No.
Oh, okay.
They're telling me I don't have any balls.
Face at me. I was like, no, I know that's what they did last year.
No, so this year it's supposed to be less. It's supposed to be less extreme, because what happened last year was that Diamond or Master Tier or Challenger Tier or whatever it was, players were getting placed into Silver, and it's still happening this year. Diamond 1s are getting placed into Silver.
I've seen a lot of people who were getting placed exactly where they were at the end of the season last season. So
yeah, I thought I heard the opposite, where they wanted to normalize people more, and they wanted to give people more of a chance to climb the ladder by themselves. So they were setting everybody further back to normal.
If you read what they said in the league on LeagueOfLegends.com, it was that they didn't want the Diamond players to go all the way down to Silver anymore, because that just didn't make sense.
Because then they
for
stomp
pros.
the shit out of the kids that are down in that region. Like that. How many times did we see, like, look at last season, for example, people, as soon as the season had restarted and, like, all the pro streamers were streaming, and they'd be like, streaming from Gold 1 or streaming from Plat 4 or whatever, and they just wreck the way all the way up back to where they were at. I think they were trying to do away with that again.
They were trying to do away with that. I'm really upset right now that we made it 50 minutes into the fucking podcast, and Dave's Comcast internet just gets destroyed.
As far as placements go, ignoring Days, who cares about Days?
Oh yeah, we don't care.
There's 2 strategies for doing placement matches, and that is 1, to do them right off the bat and rip the band-aid off, and 2, to wait a while for the dust to settle before you play them. I kind of feel like I need to explain the difference between the 2. I think DeClawd last year, you ripped the band-aid off and you did the placements right away. And when you do the placements right after the ELO resets, that's basically chaos.
It's rolling the dice.
Everyone's
straight
doing
rolling
at the same time.
Plat 4 to Silver 3. Oh, yeah. That was a fun season.
You only have 10 games to do them, and you can have 10 games of bad luck. That's entirely possible. If you have 10 games of bad luck during the course of a season, that's fine, because the season is long. You have plenty of time to build that back up. 10 games is nothing. You can gain your ELO back if you had 10 games of bad luck. But on placements, you don't have a chance to redo those. So if you have 10 games of bad luck on placements and you get placed a couple what was the word I'm thinking of here?
Divisions.
Divisions, thank you. A couple of divisions behind, then you got to build that back up. But here's the opposite case. What Badger did. Badger did his promotional games right off the bat this season. He got placed in silver. But because he did it so early, he is already in gold by now. He already made his way through the silver back to gold because he did it so early. He ripped the Band-Aid off and he started playing right away. So it's kind of up to you how you want to play this. Do you want to get it over with now, and who cares if you got bad luck or good luck? You get placed where you get placed, and you're going to keep playing through it, and you're going to get better as a result because you're playing more games, or do you just want to wait it out? And I'm more of the later. I think DeClawd, you are too after last season.
Yeah.
Where I'm just gonna wait for the dust to settle. I don't want to put up with the chaos, and I'm gonna do placements this weekend or next weekend. I'm gonna do them this weekend.
I fully embrace the chaos. I am born in this shit.
But why are you placing?
I'm 3-0. I'm gonna go 10-0 the dream.
Nice. Do it. You can do it,
Sean. You and me, buddy. We're doing this weekend, and we're going 10-0 the dream.
We should so
duo. Sean, do you seriously want to duo and stream it this weekend?
Yeah. We should do that.
All right, we're doing it.
It's gonna be the worst idea ever.
I don't even care. Sean and I are doing 10-0 the dream on Sunday.
I hope we lose like the first all the games.
No, we won't be because it just can't happen. It's impossible. Come on. Please.
Oh, it could definitely happen. There's a lot of things that can happen, Adam.
And you know what? If you're feeling down about climbing back up the ladder, just reminisce back to Season 3 where they had that fucking clamping.
Oh, yeah.
That was terrible.
Oh, my God.
They don't have clamping anymore.
Hey, how did it feel to get 0 points a game?
Yep. You're at 98.
So guys, right now, if you're not on Twitter, the Lola games on Saturday were actually being broadcast at a Best Buy. Like we were on a TV at Best Buy. Somebody streamed our shows on a Best Buy TV.
That's awesome.
Our 5v5. Just Casual just tweeted a picture of it.
That's awesome.
How interesting.
How hilarious.
I wish I could comment more on the outcome of those games.
No, I don't even care the outcome of the game. That's the best. Somebody that worked at Best Buy liked us so much that they streamed the T-Force Podcast Twitch channel to a TV in the showroom at Best Buy.
I love that person.
Well done.
Wherever they are.
Hit the gong! Hit the gong for it! No!
There we go. You listen to Adam when he tells you to hit the gong.
Yeah, he's the boss.
Yeah, I'm the boss.
I'm not going to listen to Twitch chat. Come on. They don't pay me.
He's going to cut your paycheck.
I got nothing. You guys got anything more to talk about tonight?
10-0 the dream. 10-0 the dream.
Yeah, I missed that whole placement match thing because everything shut down on me. But I just want to tell everyone, I know everyone's freaking out about it. Just try not to. It's really not that big of a deal. For the most part, you're going to be matched with people that you were matched with before because of the way that the ELO system works. I had 2 games where we had a silver match against a plat, and we lost those games because they lost the lane pretty hard. But most of the time, it doesn't happen. It's just going to be like every other solo queue game, and you're going to have some losses because people DC'd or people are frustrated. But if you're taking them too seriously, then you're going to lose them. So it's better to just have fun with them because you're going to climb back up anyway to wherever you belong. It takes like about 100 to 200 games of ranked for you to be placed in the proper elo and the proper division where you belong. So don't freak out if you're thrown somewhere. And if you're below 1200 elo, which I think is that's middle silver, or is that
1200?
1400 is gold. 1400 is gold.
It should be middle silver.
So it's mid silver or 1500, fine. But mid gold is silver. So if you're really low bronze, you're actually going to be better off because of this. Because they add elo and then divided by 2, you'll actually be a little bit higher. So there's nothing wrong with playing now and trying to get them over with, so that you get rid of that whole anxiety. Last year, somebody told me to wait, and I waited 2 months. And I got placed in silver 4. So
I waited a long time, yeah.
I waited a long time for it to level out like everyone said it was. It still doesn't matter. It's still solo queue. They're just games. Just go and have fun with them.
I talked about ripping off the Band-Aid. I'm actually gonna do them this weekend. I waited a week maybe this will be 2 weeks. I think.
I'm
I waited
good.
a day.
I don't think there's no point to waiting this long. As we said before, the season is a long time, and you have plenty of time
Right.
to make that up.
Right.
If your
You
replacements
got
don't
a
go well,
year. You have
yeah,
forever.
you'll make it up. It's fine. And if you're lucky and your placements go well, then hey, you're ahead of schedule.
And if you want to keep that good karma train rolling, every time you notice a teammate do something good, compliment them and they'll play better.
Yeah,
Yeah. Be nice.
teammates.
Listen, last year I played
Friendship.
within 2 days because I was talking to Best Yet because he was pushing hard. We were both gonna push hard for Diamond last year. Like, I'm making fun of it because I didn't hardly play any ranked games, but I did my placements within the first week. I think I went 6-4 or 7-3 or something. And I placed in Plat 5. And I was like, okay, we're happy. That's when I ended at Plat 3. I was like, we'll just leave it there. So just do it. You know what? The way I look at it, I don't give a fuck about trolls. If you're good enough, you overcome the trolls, you overcome your teammates, you're gonna overcome whatever's gonna go on. Your attitude is gonna persevere. If you are good enough this game, you're gonna win all your in-place matches or a majority of them. And even if you were good enough this game, you can still lose them all.
And come back.
Back. So just go out there and play. Just do them. Just rip the Band-Aid off, like Punch said.
And like Daze was saying, 100 or 200 games before you're at where you belong, you can change where you belong by improving, and you'll go up. So you get 300, and then all of a sudden you're higher. So,
DeClawd,
keep playing.
So Twitch chat, because this is a Twitch chat listener episode, even though Twitch chat didn't ask questions, they want the titty bounce. Can we see the titty bounce? Do you have a shirt on?
I did it.
You showed me the titty bounce in a private room when I was
I did
throwing
it during the
$1
Twitch
bill.
chat while you were talking, actually. I said, hey, watch my left titty real close. I'm going to bounce it. And then I'm just sitting here, boing, boing.
Look
boing.
at it. It's bouncing.
Oh my God, it is.
Yeah, he's got it.
Incredible.
Everybody, please tweet at T-Force Podcast, hashtag DeClawd Titty Bounce. I want to make that a thing, much like I want to make goddamn it, DeClawd a thing. We need to get a subscription button so we can have DeClawd's titty as an icon. His face with the tit.
Every time someone subscribes, boing, boing. No,
yes, that's perfect. Oh my God, this is the best thing he's ever said because I'm gonna welcome to the DeClawd Titty Bounce Army. There'll be a little titty that bounces across the stream.
I hate it. Oh no!
Oh my God, I love this. DeClawd, you need the stream so we can make this a thing.
All right.
And we need a gong emote. Oh my God, please. I'm gonna email Twitch. We need a gong emote. Yeah, fuck it, do it. Do it. Do it.
I hope they
guys. We will see you on episode 230 next week. Thank you so much for listening. That is episode 229 of the Trinity Force podcast. We will see you on Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Good night.